Welcome to Betting with the Bag. It's the end of the week, Friday, November 29th. I'm Ian Cameron filling in for Jimmy the Bag one more time this week as we look at a loaded Friday sports betting card on this Black Friday. We hope all of you in the United States enjoyed your turkey dinners, enjoyed your Thanksgiving Thursday with your family and your friends. I hope it was a great holiday for each and every one of you. We're ready to get going on a loaded Friday card. Unfortunately, we've got 90 minutes to work with. And it's one of those days where we've got everything going. We've got college football, a big Black Friday college football card. We've got college basketball, NBA, a huge NHL hockey card. There's NFL to look ahead to this weekend. You can only do so much in 90 minutes. Unfortunately, you know, with the way the show's gone down, with what we've got for our two guests, Donnie Rightside, 11:20 a.m. Eastern to do NFL. Adam Booth will join me at 11:50 a.m. Eastern time to talk NHL. Had to cut something, and unfortunately NBA is going to be that sport. We're not going to do any NBA on this show. That's what Jay Money's show is for, though. Make sure you tune in to Jay Money's NBA show later this afternoon if you're into the NBA card and want some great opinions, great advice, great breakdowns from an NBA betting perspective. Make sure you tune into that show. College basketball, I'll throw out a couple of plays that I have as well, but this is mostly going to be a college football, NHL, NFL-centric show here on this morning edition of Betting with the Bag as we get you ready for a busy Friday in the world of sports. Let's welcome in everybody in the chat. I got to get the chat up first on my screen here. But yeah, it's a crazy morning. I've got tons of windows open. I'm looking at writing down notes, getting ready to break these games down, obviously, for everyone here on the show. So it's been a crazy Friday. We welcome in everybody, though, into the chat, and hopefully you all had a great Thanksgiving. All right, we're going to basically spend the first 20 minutes of the show before Donnie Rightside joins us. We'll talk NFL with Donnie for the upcoming weekend. We're going to break down mostly college football here, these first 20 minutes of the show. Obviously, Black Friday holiday after Thanksgiving. What does that mean? It means there's a lot of Friday games in college football, and that's usually the case each year. So let's get to it. We've got Bowling Green and Buffalo to begin the card. We'll go quickly, rapid fire in rotation order. We've got Buffalo laying 28.5 in this game, 53.5 the total. In this one, it's a really tricky game based on where the number is. You know, if you're taking Bowling Green, you've got to take a leap of faith with them here in this game that if things start to go awry for them, that they're just not going to fold up the tent and go home. That has been a consistent problem lately for this Bowling Green team. Once they get down in a game, usually they don't come from behind. Buffalo, we know, has had a pretty solid season. Overall, this Bulls team got a big win last week against Toledo for their bowl eligibility hopes. The question maybe, is there a letdown? I don't know. It's your final regular season home game. I still think you're pretty fired up for this game if you're the Bulls at UB Stadium to play one more time on your home field. So definitely I think it's a situation where Buffalo to me is the only way I'd look. I don't know if I want to lay a full 4 touchdowns here, but to me Bowling Green definitely defensively Van Treese and this Buffalo offense should be able to do whatever they want. They've got a pretty good offense going. So I'm definitely looking at a situation where Buffalo can probably score a lot of points. I was looking over the total as well, 53.5. You know, Bowling Green plays with pretty good pace. Their defense isn't good. But with Bowling Green games, it's always a question of what are you going to get offensively from them. It's not really a great offensive football team by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm definitely looking at either Buffalo, and a lean to the over here as leans. It's not a game I bet, but if I were to throw out an opinion here, I would lean to the favorite, lean over the total. Virginia Tech's a fascinating game. It really is. You've got Virginia Tech 2.5, 3-point favorites here. All the money's come in throughout the week on the Hokies, and you can see why. This team's red hot against the spread. Hendon Hooker, the quarterback, since he's taken over at this position here for the Hokies, the offenses look better. And even the defense, which really struggled early in the season in terms of getting stops, has been a lot better in recent weeks. It's really a remarkable turnaround that Justin Fuente's team has had when you look at it. They're a team that was looking awful. Remember how this team barely beat Old Dominion, had these really ugly wins, and then they got just absolutely blown out by Duke. in a primetime game early in the season. And now, sure enough, we've got Virginia Tech playing their best football of the year. This is basically a game for the division in the ACC, and the winner's going to probably likely get the opportunity to lose to Clemson in the ACC championship game, or at least that's how I see it. I don't see either of these teams beating Clemson in the ACC championship game, but one of these teams will win the division and end up playing Clemson in the ACC championship game. So this is a de facto winner goes to the ACC championship game here between the Hokies and the Cavaliers in this Commonwealth Cup annual rivalry game. I'm not stepping in front of Virginia Tech. It really is that simple. They've been terrific as of late. You can't really look at Virginia Tech's full season stats and say, wow, we're going to have to handicap their games based on that. That's not the way it works right now. They are playing their best football right now. And to be honest with you, in terms of the teams that have looked better in recent weeks, I'd say Virginia Tech's looked a little bit better than Virginia. Virginia's kind of been disappointing. Bryce Perkins hasn't had the season at the quarterback spot I thought he would. I think he's been a little bit up and down. He hasn't been giving you the kind of quarterback play. He certainly has had problems with ball security. He's been a turnover machine at times for the Virginia Cavaliers with their offense. That's definitely a concern for me. At 2.5, I don't know. I don't know if I'd jump in now with Virginia Tech after the line move, but I'm definitely not going against them. When you've got this surging team against the spread, and I didn't even mention the fact that Virginia Tech has completely owned Virginia in the head-to-head series. It's been one-sided. Without a doubt, for this Virginia Tech team facing Virginia head-to-head, they have owned this rivalry series. So 2.5, I would maybe I probably will have a small bet on Virginia Tech, but the line move is significant. I'm going to just have a small play probably on Virginia Tech. I do think they find a way to win this game. I certainly like what I'm seeing from them. Virginia's defense is good. And earlier this season, Virginia had the way better defense. There's no question. Virginia was the much better defensive team early in the season, but we've got to give Virginia Tech a lot of credit for how they've turned things around on the defensive side of the football. They have been a much, much better defensive team in recent weeks, and it's been a big reason why they've turned their season around. So I'm going to lean Hokies in that one. Toledo, Central Michigan. We've got Central Michigan laying 13.5, 14-point home favorites, total 65.5 in this game. This is another game where I could only take the favorite, only look over the total. Central Michigan plays at a very fast pace under Jim McElwain, Quentin Dormady, the quarterback, and that offense has been really, really good and explosive and putting up points in bunches. Toledo does have quarterback concerns. Mitchell Guadagni's been injured. Eli Peters now banged up as well. It's a question of whether Peters will go for them in this game. If not, they might be down to their third quarterback, and that could be why. And if that's the case, I think Central Michigan becomes the stronger player. Central Michigan, because of Western losing earlier this week against Northern Illinois, Central Michigan now is in the MAC championship game if they win. If they get a win here against Toledo, they are the ones that get to play Miami, Ohio next week in the MAC championship game. So this is a big one for Central Michigan. We do want to point out, though, must win doesn't equal will win, and Central Michigan's more than happy to win this game by a field goal, by a touchdown, which wouldn't cover this number, but they'd be more than happy to just win by that margin and still get in the MAC championship game. This is not simply about covering the number for Central Michigan. They're more than happy just winning this game straight up. So you do have to take that into consideration. That being said, the Toledo quarterback cluster injuries are a concern for me. The last I looked, I couldn't find any good info about who's in for sure. We know Guadagni and Peters are both injured, and Peters in particular questionable. And if they're down to their third quarterback, this might make the Central Michigan side look like the stronger play than the over. I'm leaning Chippewas and leaning over. I probably would like the over with Peters. Peters is capable. Peters isn't great, but he's capable at the quarterback spot. And if they don't have him today, Toledo, it's hard to envision them having a ton of success moving the football in this game against Central Michigan. So Central Michigan and over, my two leans in this game. We've got the war on I-4, as they like to call it. Next game on the card, South Florida, Central Florida, UCF laying 23-62 the total. I hate this South Florida team. I think they're a complete garbage. I don't like them at all. I think Charlie Strong's done a horrific job here. Their defense is a sieve, and their defense is really going to struggle, I think, today against Central Florida. Dylan Gabriel and that offense, I think, are going to have a lot of success here with this against the South Florida defense. South Florida is a very run-heavy offense. They've got a running quarterback now that's been under center for them in recent weeks. Central Florida's defense has given up some points. You look at Tulsa. The game they played Tulsa, they were just scorched defensively. So the question is, can South Florida, take advantage of it? Because UCF certainly shown their share of defensive warts right now going into this game against South Florida. Can South Florida take advantage of it? That's the question. This is another game where favored and over is the only way I'd go. The concern with the over is I don't know what South Florida is going to do. I'd actually lay the points here with UCF. I really would. I don't think they're going to be competitive. After the second half last week against Memphis, it was a completely non-competitive game, completely blown out they were in the second half, non-competitive. Charlie Strong, what else is new? Didn't get any kind of adjustments from him after halftime. Not surprising because I think he's not that great a college football coach. So South Florida, that's going to be the concern. They get behind in this game. They have a methodical, run-heavy offense, and that's not the kind of offense you can come from behind very easily with. So, for me, Central Florida minus the points or nothing. I don't want this underdog. South Florida has been bet against for me all season. If you've watched me on these shows, you know how much I detest this team. I think they're going to be in tough today against UCF in this rivalry game. I do. It is, sometimes you don't want to lay these many points in a rivalry game such as this, but I just don't trust South Florida to hang. I really don't. Texas Tech, Texas. We've got lots of money coming in here on Texas Tech. They were as high as 10 as an underdog yesterday. Now Texas laying only 7.5. In most places in this game, 64.5 the total in this one. Before we keep the line going in terms of the college football game, see what the chat's saying here. Welcome in everybody. Bat Fist MMA, Peter Balsara, Reese, everybody in the chat. Welcome in on this Black Friday edition of the morning show, Betting with the Bag. Peter saying Virginia wins outright today. Fade the road favorite after winning 5+ in a row ATS. You know what? Virginia's not a good team. That's going to be a good game. I'm going to be making sure that's the game I'll be watching mostly in terms of the noon games, the early ones. So a fascinating game. It's just when these teams are on this roll with the point spread, like Virginia Tech is, they're very difficult teams for me to go against. But I could see it. Maybe there's been an over adjustment here. And again, Virginia now a home underdog in this game. And Virginia, a very good defense. I mean, for as much as I like Hooker, how can he move the ball on the road against this Virginia defense? Virginia's offense has had issues, but their defense has been pretty good most of the season. Texas Tech, Texas. I took Texas Tech +10. I think I mentioned this earlier in the week that I like Texas Tech in this game. It's down to 7.5. I still like it above a touchdown. What's left in the tank for Texas? Okay, they're 6-5. This is a hugely, massively disappointing season by their standards. Remember after last year, they said Texas was back. They beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Big 12 title, here we come. Maybe a playoff spot if things break right. Well, guess what? No playoffs. You didn't even sniff the Big 12 championship. And you're just a meandering 6-5 football team this year for Texas. And, it's not all Texas playing poorly. They've had a bunch of injuries, especially on defense. But yeah, and against Baylor last week, I saw a lethargic effort from them for the first time in a while. Remember, they lost a crusher to Iowa State the week before, and then they lost to Baylor last week, and that was a pretty big game going up against the Bears. I worry that they're going to fall flat here. Like, this is a team that mentally is shot, mentally is tapped out. This is not the kind of season and expectations we were expecting. We weren't expecting to be 6-5 if you're Texas coming into the season. So I worry about them, and I certainly worry about their defense anytime they're laying points. As good as Tom Herman is in the underdog role, he's not so good at all laying points. I mean, his role in the favorite, I think 30%, 34% ATS long-term track record for Tom Herman laying points. And Texas Tech, I know defensively they've been a mess, and even offensively they're battling some injuries on that side of the ball. Jet Duffy is a okay quarterback. He's not been great filling in for Alan Bowman since he got injured early in the season. But I think Texas Tech, a situation where, for me, they're worth a look in this game. They really are. I mean, it's a rivalry spot. Texas defense. Texas really is showing me that a couple weeks in a row, losing to Iowa State, losing to Baylor, they are having some troubles defensively. Even Sam Ehlinger. Sam Ehlinger hasn't been on fire these last few weeks. He's made some mistakes. There's been some offensive line issues. He's been under pressure. Trying to get rid of the football. So I think we have a live underdog here. I think Texas Tech's got a good chance to take this game down to the wire. Just worry about the psyche of Texas. They weren't expecting to come into the final or the Thanksgiving holiday weekend of the college football season with a 6-5 record. So I think Texas Tech, offensively can do enough to be within a single score in this game. So I really like the Red Raiders. This is probably my best bet on the college card today. I really like Texas Tech here, getting more than a touchdown. Kent State, Eastern Michigan. How about Kent State? They've been on a roll lately. They beat Ball State. They come back and beat Buffalo a couple weeks before that. I think they're worth a look getting points against Eastern Michigan. They're getting 4. Actually, it's down to 3.5, 68.5 the total. Kent and over would be the way I'd go. We know Kent's a rapid-fire pace offense. They're starting to score points. Their defense is still suspect. We know Eastern Michigan is much better in the underdog role than they are the favorite role. And let's not forget, Eastern Michigan, got a big win last week against Northern Illinois, a big win for the Eagles. Now they're laying points. And Kent State, they're playing their best football right now. They're finding ways. I mean, it's not been pretty, but they've comeback wins each of the last 2 weeks for the Golden Flashes here. So I think the underdog and the over worth a look there. Miami Ball State, I don't have a whole lot here. Ball State's the only way I can bet it situationally. Miami's locked into the MAC championship next week against either Central or Western Michigan. So for Miami, Ohio, I don't know if you want to show all that much. I don't know if there's any incentive for Chuck Martin to really go out there and say, hey, we got to win this game, knowing we've got the MAC championship on deck. Ball State's been a very big disappointment this year. I expected more from this Ball State football team than we've seen so far this season. But certainly Miami, just based on what incentive do they have today with the MAC championship game on the line? I don't want the dog here. It'd be Ball State or nothing for me. Iowa, Nebraska, we're going to go rapid fire through these next few games so we can bring Donny on board to talk NFL for the weekend. I took the points with Nebraska here. Nebraska, for all the disappointment they've had this season, this is a huge game for them. At home in Lincoln, need this win for bowl eligibility. It would get them to 6 wins. And I'm going to say this again, and I cashed with Illinois last week against Iowa. Iowa laying points is dubious proposition. They're not explosive offensively. Nathan Stanley's a pedestrian quarterback. And did you see what Kirk Ferentz did with the lead against Illinois? It wasn't let's punch in another touchdown. It wasn't let's throw the ball all over the place. It wasn't let's try to put this game away. It was conservative. It was conservative Charlie from Kirk Ferentz against Illinois. It was run the football, just bleed the clock as much as possible. If we're forced to settle for a field goal, we're going to do it. He does not put the foot on the gas pedal. He's as conservative and vanilla as it gets offensively with this Iowa team, and they're like that every single year. Nebraska has not been good, but at least the last few weeks, they're playing some better football. I'm gonna take a chance here with this Nebraska side. I've been betting against Iowa a lot, laying points this year. Most of the time it's worked out. Sometimes it hasn't, but I've won more than I've lost when I've gone against Iowa laying points here. So I'm going to take, again, Nebraska. I know people are banging their head against the wall betting on Nebraska throughout the course of the season. I'm not one of them. I have stayed away from backing this team. I think this might be the first time all year I've actually backed Nebraska in a football game, and I think they're warranted of a look here at home, catching points against a very suspect, pedestrian Iowa Hawkeyes offense going into this game. Missouri, Arkansas, impossible game for me because I don't want Arkansas. I don't want the grandson of Jerry Jones, John Stephen Jones. I thought he was awful at the quarterback spot before. In his last game for the Razorbacks. I don't trust him, but remember, Missouri's lost to Vanderbilt on the road. Are we really going to trust Missouri now? 2 touchdown road favorites on the road in general, and now laying 2 touchdowns on the road? I'm not sure. It's not been the season it was cracked up to be for Kelly Bryant, and this Missouri offense, especially Kelly Bryant. I think he's underperformed most of the season. It's a really, really tough game because I really am not enamored with laying 2 tutties with Missouri on the road. But is there a case to be made to back Arkansas with how dismal and pathetic their season's been? I mean, Western Kentucky, of all teams, blew them out in Fayetteville last game. I mean, ugly for Arkansas. Absolutely ugly stuff, or actually 2 games ago. And then we saw what happened against LSU in their last game, non-competitive, completely annihilated and eviscerated. So that one's a game I'm going to stay out of. Cincinnati, Memphis. Memphis has taken money, I agree. They need the win, obviously, to get into the to the AAC championship game. It's down to them and Navy, and it's down to them and Navy in terms of who plays Cincinnati in that AAC championship game. So these two teams could actually play each other again next week in the AAC championship. Cincinnati may not want to show a whole lot, but you're talking about AAC championship game, so I can understand why situationally Memphis is getting the money. And I'll tell you what, right now, if Memphis gets up by 2 touchdowns, they're not or Cincinnati's not coming back. I'm still unimpressed with this Cincinnati offense. Desmond Ritter's been shaky lately. The offense has looked very, very ugly, not putting up big points. Temple shut them down last week pretty much in that football game. So Cincinnati, to me, is an offense I really don't trust. Arkansas State, South Alabama. Look, South Alabama is horrid. It's the road favorite or nothing for me in that game. Their offense has just been abysmal. Arkansas State should be able to move the ball. 54, I mean, Arkansas State could get 30-40. It's what do you get from South Alabama? That's what kept me off the total there. West Virginia, TCU is a very low total, 42.5. Weather issues, I believe, in Fort Worth. They're calling for some showers in this game, in TCU for this game. That's the one concern, but I like the way the TCU offense has played lately. Duggan and the offense has played better. I think West Virginia is a little bit better offensively since they made the quarterback change. Kendall just wasn't getting it done for them. I would look over the total. It's a very low number. It's not asking a lot to get over 42.5. I know there's weather issues in Fort Worth today, but I'd still lean over. I do like the over in the next game, Boise and Colorado State. Colorado State's defense, I don't think it's going to match up well at all with Boise. Boise should move the ball at will, but I think Colorado State's offense is capable enough to do some damage. I know they got shut down by Wyoming, but Wyoming defense in Wyoming is a tough nut to crack, and I think Colorado State will have better offensive success there. Washington State, Washington, Apple Cup, Washington laying a touchdown. Tricky game because I would lean Washington State, but Washington State has been annihilated year after year in this Apple Cup game by Washington. They just don't match up with Chris. Mike Leach gets his teeth kicked in and year out by Chris Peterson in this matchup. The problem with backing Washington here is Washington looks like they're mailing it in on a weekly basis. That effort against Colorado last week for Jacob Eason and the offense, and even for the defense was okay, but that offense was horrible against Colorado last week, and that offense has really regressed with every passing week here. Historically, they've just bombed Washington State year in and year out, but they look like a very vulnerable, weary favorite right now. I lean to the Cougars. If they had some kind of better track record head-to-head against Washington, I'd feel stronger about taking Washington State here in this game, but it's only a lean to me toward the Cougars, and it does worry me too that Washington is such the better defensive football team. I mean, Washington State really struggling to get stops. App State, Troy, last game, we've got App State 11.5, 63 the total. That's a game where I think it could go over the total. Troy's offense can probably move the ball against most teams. App State's got a really good defense, though. That would be the one concern, but Troy's not an under team to me. They play fast. They're capable of scoring against most teams they can play. I know App State's defense has been good, but I think App State will score a bunch with Thomas at quarterback. Question is, can you get enough from Troy to get you over? I think they can. I think at 63, the over might be worth a look there. All right, let's get to Donnie Rightside, our first guest on this Friday show. We're going to break down a big NFL card. We know the headline matchup is going to be the 49ers and Ravens. Man alive, am I looking forward to watching that game on Sunday afternoon. It should be a beauty. You can catch Donnie all week on the SBR channel on the Audible. You can catch him Sunday morning on the Closing Line. I'll be with him and Jay Sunday morning breaking down the NFL card. Let's welcome in my old friend Donnie Rightside to the Betting with the Bag morning show to talk some NFL. Donnie, how are you today?
And you're looking clean today. And by the way, I meant to ask, like Thanksgiving, is that celebrated in Canada? Is that correct?
We have ours in October. It's always the second Monday of October. Yeah, we have it earlier in the year. But I'll tell you what, Donnie, sometimes even though it's not the Canadian Thanksgiving yesterday, it's only the American Thanksgiving. Like I said on the show, I'm always tempted to just go down to that grocery store, that butcher shop, and get me a good old butterball turkey, because I'll tell you what, the cravings of eating turkey on American Thanksgiving get to me. You see all the turkey legs on the football games that you're watching, players eating them, and you're like, man, I could have gone for a turkey today. But no, I passed this year. I did not have my turkey dinner on American Thanksgiving. But Donnie, how was your American Thanksgiving? Let's briefly touch on what we saw yesterday. Obviously, some interesting games. Chicago Bears come back to beat Detroit. David Blau wow, had a electrifying start, sort of petered out in the second half. The Buffalo Bills keep the woes going for the Dallas Cowboys, and I know you appreciated that, Donnie, as a Philadelphia Eagles fan. A little help from the Buffalo Bills, a little help from your friends, as Ringo Starr once said, and the Buffalo Bills were able to get the job done there. I find it hilarious. And I've had a lot of good things, Donnie, to say about Tony Romo as an analyst, but yesterday was rough. Yesterday was hard to listen to. When I'm hearing in the fourth quarter of a game that the Bills are blowing out the Cowboys, I got to listen to Tony Romo say, you know what, just a couple of mistakes, a few turnovers, but they really had some good stuff today. What the hell are you watching, Tony? What do you mean they had good stuff today? They're getting their teeth kicked in. They're getting their asses handed to them on national TV in a home game they desperately needed, with the vultures circling around Jason Garrett and Jerry Jones calling them out. And you're going to say that there was some good stuff coming from the Dallas Cowboys yesterday? What the hell are we doing here? What were you watching, Tony Romo? My gosh. Donnie, what did you think of what we saw yesterday?
No, you're exactly right in the Dallas Cowboys game. Didn't it feel like you're watching like Ron Popeil and one of maybe an infomercial that should be on like QVC yesterday? You even had, Emmitt Smith in the booth that when the Buffalo Bills missed a field goal, he's saying, yay! I mean, I couldn't understand what was actually going on. And also, how about the pass interference penalties that were called? And so, I don't know about that one. Literally, Dallas players with their hands up running in the players 3 seconds before the ball actually got there. It's actually kind of fun, but that's always a rite of passage, which is great for the Northeastern football teams, the New York Giants, the Washington Redskins, the Eagles. We always get to sit every single year and cheer against the Cowboys. Yesterday was a lot of fun. I got to tell you, I did have a play myself, a small play on the total in that football game that I'm really surprised that didn't actually get there. The Cowboys, again, were really good on offense, turned it over too much, but over 400 yards of offense. And I put out a tweet earlier today, Ian, 5.4 yards per carry and 10.1 yards per pass, and you lost the football game. Dallas isn't going to win this division. You'd send it for a couple weeks here. The Eagles are going to be able to take Dallas down in week 16. And quite frankly, they're going on the road in Chicago next week and then get the Rams. I'm not even so sure at this point that game will actually matter in Philadelphia, where they might already have the division wrapped up at that point, being the Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas is a bad football team, and it starts with the top. We'll see what takes place over the weekend. But yes, the early games really went as planned, right? Detroit Lions. Did we think it was a great hot start? They were winning. But you can't win with a horrific defense and a third-string quarterback. It finally showed its head. And then the night game, I'm sitting here at the night game, sweating and under. I had no business sweating when nobody gets on kicks, and all of a sudden you get 2 onside kicks, and I'm sweating the under 48 in that football game. Crazy day when all 3 road teams won.
Yeah, crazy day. And it shows you these unders, these unders in the NFL. They always make you sweat somehow, some way when we get to the finish. It could be cruising under, and then in a lot of these situations, you're still just biting your nails in the last 2 minutes, wondering if you're going to hang on and cash that ticket. And thankfully that happened in the New Orleans-Atlanta game after some shoddy special teams kick coverage by the Saints on those 2 onside kicks, both of them recovered by the Falcons. So crazy stuff yesterday on the Thursday NFL card. And just one more point about the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. Like, the worst thing that could have happened, Donnie, to Dallas is Chicago winning yesterday, because Chicago's now back to 500. They're not going to roll over and die on this season, and now they got to face a desperate Chicago team next week, this Dallas Cowboys team. So I know Chicago's got a lot of holes, a lot of issues offensively, the quarterback chief among them, but for Dallas to see Chicago win, and now you got to face a Chicago team that's still going to put up the good fight, thinking that maybe if we get hot here in December, we can get back into this wild card race. Not going to be an easy game next Thursday night for Dallas as their season starts to spiral downward, as they got to go to the Windy City and face the Bears. All right, we'll throw out the NFL card. We'll go game by game quickly if we can. Green Bay Giants, Green Bay 6.5. Road favorites, total 44.5. It's a Green Bay spot, isn't it? They got embarrassed against San Francisco last week, a complete blowout loss. They're terrible on both sides of the ball. Offensive line was just completely overwhelmed by San Francisco's front seven. I mean, there was no time for Rodgers. You're not going to get that same pass rush and that same. You go from that defense now to the Giants defense. It should be like night and day for Aaron Rodgers and company, but you got to win by a touchdown or more to cover the number, Donnie. What do you think, Packers Giants?
Yeah, it looks easy, and it looked easier starting the week, and you're seeing like 9 out of 10 tickets lining up on the Green Bay Packers, and I really can't fault them for that, because when you're looking at the Green Bay Packers, what gave them problems, Ian, over the past couple weeks where they just look completely out of sorts? The Chargers with a dominant front four. The 49ers with a dominant front four. You know where it looked easy for me? And Carolina Panthers, so up front. Kansas City, not really that good up front and banged up in that game. And in Oakland, they put up a lot of big numbers. If you're not harassing Aaron Rodgers in the pocket, he's going to be able to make plays. That's how I see this game laying out. And Danny Dimes, as we like to call him, hasn't been all that successful this year. Golden Tate's actually been their best wide receiver. He's probably going to miss this football game, which is going to be key. Northeastern weather, that 40-degree weather, light drizzle, leaning to, I don't have a play on either side on the total or even the Green Bay Packers, but I got to say, I'm really not interested in backing the Giants in any way, shape, or form at this point, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, I cashed with the Giants last week. Actually gave it out on the closing line last week, Donnie, against Chicago. I don't think I'm going to tempt fate with the Giants this week, especially with Green Bay coming off that absolutely brutal loss to San Fran. You would think if there's an A game for Matt LaFleur's team, you should, in theory, expect it this week. We'll see if that's good enough to cover the number. Washington, Carolina 10-point home favorites, total 39.5. Well, Kyle Allen, we were starting to sour on him, Donnie, but he actually played reasonably well last week in the Dome, even in the loss against the New Orleans Saints. It was a much better game from him and the offense. The question is now, Carolina's, really played some competitive football, still been able to hang in there without Cam Newton and with Kyle Allen at quarterback, but now you got to ask them to win by 10 points or more. I know Washington is nothing to write home about, but somehow, some way they pulled out a win against that Detroit Lions sad sack team last week. But this is a different kind of price range for Carolina. I don't trust them in it. Not sure I want to take Washington though either. Any thoughts on this one, Donnie?
Yeah, it's hard to take Washington. I mean, they're getting absolutely pathetic quarterback play. You have a dead coaching staff, which you don't have on either side of the football when you're looking at the Carolina Panthers now at home. Waiting to see where those windy conditions end up being and seeing like 15, 16 miles an hour, which always is a little bit of a red flag, especially on longer field goals or if you have the wind at your back or you don't in the passing game that you have. It does seem a little bit expensive, but when you're looking at a football team with the Washington Redskins and you say to yourself, like, all right, well, how are we going to cover this game before Washington? You need a good game out of Dwayne Haskins, which he hasn't shown anything that he can encompass anything of a decent football game. You say, all right, well, let's look to see how the defense is going to shut somebody down. Defense isn't really all that good. So if we're entering into this football game and you try to take, some things under mind, so to speak, 14 points maybe for the Washington Redskins. When we're looking the previous weeks and just going over what their numbers have been on offense, versus the Detroit Lions, a sad sack defense, 86 yards on the ground, 144 yards in the air. Let's keep in mind also when you statistics, like you want to have close to double digits as, pass per play or pass per attempt, 4.8 yards per attempt versus the Jets, 4.9 yards per attempt. Buffalo, 7.7. Minnesota, 8.7. San Francisco, 4.2. If you have an offense that is absolutely as devastatingly bad as the Washington Redskins, it almost seems like a get-right game for the Carolina Panthers at home. If you don't want to take the over because you maybe don't think Washington can score, you don't want that high number, team total Carolina Panthers might not be a bad thing. The one thing I do know is Carolina's going to score. The one thing I don't know is if Washington's going to have a competent offense, Ian.
And you've been taking advantage of some of those team totals because you want to isolate the one matchup, the one offense versus the one defense. You want to take out what the other team might or might not do in the game. And that's what team totals can help you do. San Francisco, Baltimore, 5.5 home favorites, 46.5 the total. Wow. Boy, I'll tell you what, Baltimore, I'll tell you right now, there's no freaking way I'm going against the Ravens right now. The question is now, they got a huge betting bandwagon. Everybody's on board it. This is a number that I believe was 3.5 before the Baltimore Ravens annihilated the LA Rams on Monday Night Football last week. There has been some padding in this number to Baltimore based on how impressive and how dominant and how they've eviscerated one team after another in recent weeks. And not just eviscerating teams, eviscerating good teams. I'm not saying Houston's elite. I'm not saying the Rams are elite. But those are at least good, capable, solid football teams, and Baltimore's just absolutely putting the boots to teams like that right now. However, if there's one team in theory that should give them some defensive resistance, it's this 49ers group. They're playing tremendous defense on that side of the ball. That's been the most impressive. I know they have the offensive mind in Shanahan. Jimmy G is, ups and downs, but he's been solid. He gives them a better quarterback than certainly Beathard or Mullins or anybody has recently for San Fran. The running game's solid. But it's the play of this defense. Nick Bosa and company, absolutely phenomenal. Buckner. I mean, there are just so many guys on that defensive front playing huge for this Niners team. The question is, can they contain the absolutely lightning quick, not only lightning quick with his feet, Donnie, he's making lightning quick decisions with his head, Lamar Jackson, during football games right now. And it's been impressive to watch. These are two great teams. I'd rather bet on both of them than bet against them. This is one of those games I have no interest betting it. Kick my feet back, watch it, enjoy it, because it should be a dandy. 49ers and Ravens, Donnie, what's your take?
Yeah, it's funny about that. You say the same things that I say about this game. It's going to be really fun to watch. But even if from a betting perspective, if you said, all right, you sat back and watch the game, be like, yep, that was way too many points. Can't give the Niners that many points. You can make a serious offer at that. And then the vice versa side saying, what am I, stupid? Like, Baltimore's been scoring 30-plus points over the past 5 weeks, sometimes hitting into the 40s. I can't even believe I thought about taking the points less than 7 going against this Baltimore Ravens team. Now, the one thing that keeps coming up, which I do tend to agree with, the Niners defense is annihilating pocket quarterbacks. And obviously we know Lamar Jackson, certainly not a pocket quarterback. But the whole notion of, they give him fits and problems. I mean, Kyler Murray is going to give everybody problems. Russell Wilson's going to give everybody problems. So is Lamar Jackson also. Now, but taking a look at these games, when we actually said, they have problems with Seattle and Arizona's, when you really break it down of what's going on, they really don't. I mean, you're talking about the Green Bay game, which they were absolutely perfect, annihilated Green Bay. But going back to those 3 games, Arizona twice and Seattle once, 135 yards on the ground, which is a little bit much, but only 131 in the air. Seattle, 147 on the ground, only 189 in the air. Arizona, 153 on the ground, 204 in the air. Now, keep in mind, they did win 2 out of those 3 football games. And if they did have a kicker, which you're going to have Robbie Gould back this weekend, makes an overtime kick, they sweep through. And maybe we're not talking about all these deficiencies that the San Francisco 49ers do have against teams with mobile quarterbacks. There is going to be a little bit of rain in the forecast. And yes, it is going to be hard. Baltimore, since they got Marcus Peters and Jimmy Smith back at cornerback, they have been sensational. There's no question about it. The one thing that I actually think creeps in more than all that stuff, Ian, is how banged up San Francisco actually is at key positions, especially on offense. You're talking about wide receivers with rib injuries. One shot and they go down. Running backs with bulky knees and ankles. One shot, they go down. George Kittle, who's one of the best tight ends in football, bulky knee, bulky ankle. I think they're a little bit too going to Baltimore and win this game outright. But Ian, I think we can both agree, you can make a really good side for either way you want to go in this football game.
Yeah, exactly. I would actually, I'd lean a little bit over, because I think even though Baltimore's defense has been better lately, it's been much better lately. Their defense has been much, much better than it was early in the season. You got the creative mind of Shanahan that I think can come up with stuff, and the offense can do enough. And then Baltimore, I still think Baltimore is going to put, especially at home, still going to find their way to points. I would lean over, but I'm not sure I'm going to get there. I know one game I have gotten there already, Donnie, with the over. It's the next game we're talking about. Tennessee and Indianapolis. We've got Indy 2.5, 43 the total in this one. And I know T.Y. Hilton's out. He's not going to play. But he's been a bit of a liability. He's been in and out with injuries. He's dropping balls a couple of times lately. The Houston game, we remember the drop he had there. And he said, it was on me. I should have had that ball. But, Zach Pascal's been fine. He stepped up for Jacoby Brissett in the passing game. Chester Rogers. They've still got some guys that can catch the football down the field for Brissett. And I cashed an easy one over the total with Tennessee last week against Jacksonville. Tennessee's an over team right now, because they're lining these Tennessee totals in the low 40s, mid 40s at most, and not taking into account that they finally got a downfield passing game with Ryan Tannehill, something that's opened up the running lanes for Derrick Henry, and we saw him with a huge day running the football. It's because now you got to respect the pass a little bit, because at least with Tannehill and not Mariota, you control the ball a little bit now for this Tennessee offense, and that opens up Henry running the football for this Titans offense. And the result was them doing whatever they wanted. Once that second half began against Jacksonville, that they just caved in that Jacksonville defense time and time again. So, I think Tennessee's an undervalued to the over totals team right now. And that's the way I'm going to look at this game. I would look to the Colts as well. I like the situation, them off the bye. Frank Reich, extra time to prepare. I'm a little surprised this number's trickled down to where it is. I'd lean Colts, but for me, the stronger opinion and the stronger play is the over in this game. Indoors, too, won't be affected by weather with the Titans and the Colts. Donnie, what's your take on this game?
I think you're in the right direction here, Ian. And it's hard because you're going up against 2 teams that when we think of moving up and down the field, moving fast, these 2 teams really don't do that. Now, keep in mind last week, Ian, we had a 0-0 game in that Jacksonville Titans game that absolutely blew the doors off of the cover as it got moving along. Now, what's the MO to win in this football game? If you're looking from Indianapolis, no Eric Ebron, he goes to IR. Also, as we know, T.Y. Hilton's going to miss this football game, and no Marlon Mack. So a lot of your explosivity is gone from the Indianapolis offense. But that doesn't mean that they certainly can't push it. The one thing, Ian, that we can agree upon is when you bet in Indianapolis football game, you're getting analytics. And when you get analytics, that usually is a really good thing for the over, because Frank Reich with 4th and 2 at midfield, he's going for it. So if he gets it, fantastic. If he doesn't get it, fantastic, because everybody's going to have good field position regardless of the outcome. That's always going to have something in your corner. The one thing that's interesting about this game, Derrick Henry on Wednesday, Ian, left practice with a hamstring injury, did return back to practice yesterday on Thanksgiving. That's one thing to keep an eye on. But the one thing that you certainly can't deny when you're looking from an offensive perspective, since putting Tannehill in for Marcus Mariota, 23 points, 27 points, 20 points, 35, and 42 points. Now, when we usually flip it over and say, man, Tennessee got pretty good defense. The whole team's down. Maybe this can get into a slugfest. Not necessarily, Ian. Look at the 5-game snapshot for the Tennessee Titans on defense, quote unquote, a good defensive ball club. Versus the Chargers, gave up 326 in the air. Versus Tampa Bay, 100 on the ground, 283 in the air. Versus Carolina, 156 on the ground, 214 in the air. Kansas City, 97 on the ground, 433 in the air, and Jacksonville struggling on offense, 117 on the ground and 252 in the air. If you're going to tell me that the opposing team is going to garner close to 400 yards, which would be Indianapolis, that's always good for the over. And also, when we talk about overs, Ian, we're not talking about 51.5, 52.5, 53.5. You're talking about in the low 40s at this point. I agree with you here. Even though the public's going to see, hey, shiny objects are gone. No T.Y. Hilton in this football game. No Eric Ebron, no Marlon Mack. Don't be surprised by that, because Frank Reich can turn some of the tables, and instead of kicking field goals from 37 yards, 4th and 1, he's going for it, and they can turn into touchdowns.
Yeah, with the season Adam Vinatieri's had for the Colts, you can understand at times why Frank Reich's going for it when he's got that opportunity. Philadelphia, Miami. Philly, -10, 44.5 the total. Certainly Miami's fallen on hard times. They got just annihilated by Cleveland last week. They actually put up a decent fight in the second half, but too little too late. Philadelphia, can we lay 10 on the road with the Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie? I know it's they need to bounce back. They're coming off a couple of really disheartening losses to the Patriots and the Seahawks in back-to-back weeks. Their offense is damaged beyond belief. And it's funny hearing people on Twitter, oh, Carson Wentz sucks. Carson Wentz is never going to be the quarterback. What do you want? He's got nobody to throw to and no time to throw. All right? What do you want? Give him a break. There's a lot of issues beside Carson Wentz on that offense. I can tell you that right now. Philly -10, Donnie. Do we even consider the Eagles here?
It's very hard to consider the Eagles here, and I'm going to lay out the reasons why we can. When we came on the show last weekend, the stars were aligned. We had our Voltron gear ready to go, and we were all over Cleveland. Why? Because they have weapons that can really expose a porous secondary for the Miami Dolphins, and they did every bit of that. We deep shots to OBJ, check. Jarvis Landry versus O team, wide open all game, check. It was easy. Running backs getting multiple touchdowns, check. Everything worked out well. But now when you flip it over, yes, the Eagles are going to get a deep breath. They're playing Seattle the past 2 weeks, along with New England, and also before the bye, the Chicago Bears defense. You're going to be like, whew, man, we're going to play in 81-degree weather against this chump change team. But still, just because the other team really stinks, you still need weapons to exploit the team that stinks. If you have legitimate wide receivers, if Deshaun Jackson's healthy in this game, he's probably going for 5 for 150 and 2 scores with ease. Alshon Jeffrey, he was healthy, can post up and do it every once against that pedestrian secondary. Jordan Howard out of the running back position, doing whatever he wants against that Miami defense. But let's check it again. Oh, by the way, Zach Ertz hurt, hamstring. The one guy that can catch passes, can get open, that you can expect 7 catches for 70 yards in a score, probably not going to play in this football game. So that leaves you with Dallas Goedert at tight end, who's not bad. We look at Alshon Jeffrey, limited practices all week. We haven't seen him in a few games. Is he going to be on a full snap count, ready to dominate in this game? Probably not. And no Deshaun Jackson, Nelson Aguilar banged up, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. And again, keep in mind, Howard, without missing. So you're going to go Miles Sanders, who you're not comfortable with giving him a full load yet. And you're going to lean on Jay Ajayi, who's got like 5 carries, missed like a year and a half of football, and say, hey, we're going to be a complete football team. That doesn't really work here. Do I think the Eagles are going to win this football game? Yes. But I got to tell you, the Dallas Cowboys loss now gave the Eagles a deep breath on a couple of these games, because they can now afford to lose a game as long as they beat the Dallas Cowboys in Week 16. I actually like the under in this football game. And I think the Dolphins can keep it close where Fitzpatrick might be able to make some plays. The Eagles, completely healthy on defense now and playing outrageously well over the past couple weeks. They should hold the Miami Dolphins in check, but you're talking about a road favorite to cover 10. I need more confidence out of my offense. Not sure if I have that in the Eagles, Ian.
All right, so yeah, that's the tricky part about laying 10, even against Miami. Oakland, Kansas City. This line looks like a slight overreaction to what happened with the Raiders last week. I know they got bombed. It was a no-show. That's exactly what it was. For the Oakland Raiders against the New York Jets, and it showed, because here's John Gruden pulling Derek Carr in the third quarter. He's like, they waved the white flag early in that game. They knew they were done. And now they're getting 10 from Kansas City. Kansas City's defense is still not a late 10 points with them kind of defense to me. I think I'm trying to make a case for Oakland here. The one concern is Josh Jacobs is questionable. He's been limited in practice all week. That's a concern for me. Obviously, he's been great running the football for the Raiders. Hunter Renfrow has really come on as a receiver as well for this Raiders team. Not going to play in this game, so maybe down a couple of weapons on offense, but that's a lot of points. And I think it's just, is Oakland, people that think this are just saying Oakland's now going to revert just to a bad team the rest of the way. Yeah, they had a bad game. I don't think it totally ends their season whatsoever. I'd expect them to play a little bit better here. I'd lean a little to Oakland. I just want to see if some of these offensive players are going to play for them. Donnie, what's your thoughts on the Raiders-Chiefs AFC West rivalry matchup?
Yeah, I do have some. Ron Durante in the chat box. Eagles win maybe 1, maybe 2 games the rest of the season and lose to the Jets. And Cowboys, well, they don't play the actual Jets, Ron, so they do play the Cowboys. And if you want to set up a PayPal, we could certainly bet that the Eagles win more than 1 game out of their next 5 games. So if you want to check in with me and hit me up on the DMs, I'd be more than happy to pay for my wife's Christmas with that. But getting back to the point here, Oakland and Kansas City, Ian. You know what I like about this football game? If you're an Oakland backer, if you can get a healthy running back, you can lead on that offensive line. You can rush for yards against Kansas City. You know what else I like? It's going to be cooler conditions in Kansas City. And you know what else, Ian? High windy conditions. So that's going to bring that high flying crazy attack down for Kansas City. And oh yeah, one of my favorite things, if I could do a video, Ian, by myself and put this out on Twitter, I always get a laugh out of this. A speed guy who's built nothing but speed and quickness in and out of breaks goes back and forth, right? And we're talking about Tyreek Hill. Up and down the field, in and out. He pulls his hamstring the last time we saw him, right? And how many times do we see this? Hey, just felt like a little bit of cramp. It's nothing. I'm going to be ready for this game. So he's going to suit up at 36, 37 degrees and windy conditions and think he's going to run 20 miles an hour, 22 miles an hour straight. He'll be done by the first quarter. So you could probably take Tyreek Hill out of this football game, which really sets up well for the Oakland Raiders. Keep it controlled, keep it down. And also, when you finally get back in that playoff race, when we talked about last week on the show, Ian, the pressure now that you have with the Oakland Raiders saying, wait a second, we're in prime position to make the playoffs. When we were the joke of the league, they folded under that. That's a great teaching point for John Gruden to say, hey, guys, look, we went in last week. We got blown out. We got to have a more focused and concentrated effort. It's a division game. If you're going to give me close to 10 points, I'm taking the Raiders here.
All right, liking the Raiders. I agree completely. Tampa, Jacksonville. I'll throw the next 3 at you because we're down to our last 5 minutes here. Tampa, Jacksonville, Jets, Cincy, Rams, Arizona. I don't know if I can back Jacksonville. This is no show in divisional games a couple of weeks in a row for this Jaguars team. I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like the effort. I don't like the energy or the lack of it on the sideline from this team. When things go south, they've gone south in a hurry. I can understand Tampa getting the money in that game. Jets, Cincinnati, it's got to be Jets or pass for me. I can't trust Cincinnati. I know Cincinnati got a push, in the game against Pittsburgh last week, but it was still an ugly performance overall, especially from the offense. The Jets are playing their best football. Rams, Arizona. Rams, there's something wrong with the Rams. I know the Rams are going to be embarrassed and, in theory, come out strong after getting annihilated by Baltimore, but something's off with this Rams team. I'm not sure I want to back them. It's probably a game I'll leave alone, but I'm definitely considering Tampa and the Jets there. Those 3 games, Donnie, what are your looks?
Yeah, real quick on those. Tampa and Jacksonville, I think you're going to get some points, but also keep in mind, down in Florida, close to 20-mile-an-hour winds, always something of a concern because if you don't have the wind at your back, that's going to affect your passing and your kicking game. So maybe you have a 37-yard field goal in pocket. Next thing you know, you miss it, or you can't go deep, so you want to hold on for the next 4 to 5 minutes until the wind flips in your direction the next quarter. That's a little bit tougher, but I hesitate to take Jacksonville until they actually get right. Nick Foles, look, threw for close to 300 yards versus Indianapolis, had a decent day last week, but again, in a blowout, both of those blowouts, you have to take those with a little bit of a grain of salt. The Rams game, the one to take a look at, this should be a get-right game for the Rams, but I was burned on Monday night, sitting on a team total over 21 for the Rams that I put out in a free play video. I'm saying, you know what? This is actually going to be a really good spot for the Rams, and the reason being is I think Baltimore's going to score some points, so even if they do get down, they'll be forced. All their weapons are back. They were absolutely horrendous and threw in the towel in the second half, which gives me a little bit of pause. Now, the Baltimore Ravens playing elite defense. Can Arizona do that? No. Arizona's a bottom 10 defense in the NFL. They're not going to get as much pressure. Not going to be able to defend the, wide receivers that they have all that much. You should get points out of this football game. So leaning on a 46.5 or a 47 seems decent. But sometimes, Ian, I just look at Jared Goff and say, you're sitting back there for 5 seconds, buddy. Get rid of the football. What are you doing,
Yeah, Jared Goff on the road. I mean, we keep saying it, but it's true. He has had his issues, especially away from home. Now, Arizona defense isn't Pittsburgh's defense or some of the other defenses he's had to play on the road this season, but Still, I mean, it's concerns. I mean, I'm not in love with laying points on the road with him and the Rams right now. All right, the next 3 games, including Sunday Night Football: Chargers, Broncos. Chargers laying 3, 38.5 the total. Cleveland, Pittsburgh. Browns laying 2, 2.5 on the road, 38.5 the total. New England, Houston, Sunday Night Football, 3, 3.5. New England road favorites, 46 the total. Chargers, Broncos. Denver looks like a team that's just almost done. Stick a fork in it. Well, they are done, but that's back-to-back weeks. They fought hard against Minnesota, but blew the game. They were pretty much out of it from start to finish against Buffalo last week. Brandon Allen not really getting it done at quarterback. If I had to, I'd look Chargers there, but I don't love it. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, really tough game. Obviously, that's going to be the first game after the helmet swinging incident. A lot of Cleveland money. People buying this little streak that the Browns are on, Donnie, that maybe they're getting things rolling and looking to ride this team again. I'm not so sure. New England, Houston, look, I know New England's got concerns offensively. They haven't looked right. This is still Bill Belichick, Bill O'Brien. It's a coaching mismatch. New England in a price range. I have no comfort at all betting against them when they're only laying a field goal like they are in this game. And we know Houston's track record: playoff games, big games, national TV games. It's nothing to write home about. I know New England's got flaws, and I've got questions about how good they truly are. But at that price range, there's no way I go against the Patriots. No way whatsoever. Those 3 games, Donnie: Denver, Pittsburgh, and Houston. What do you like?
Yeah, and that Chargers-Denver game, kind of an interesting one because we don't really know who's going to start at quarterback for Denver, but I'm not so sure that's actually going to matter. Like, are we saying, I hope Drew Lock gets a start? I'm really going to look for it. And the guy's never even taken a snap in the NFL and all of a sudden thrust into a spot playing a defense that can really get after the pass rusher and maybe even getting some Derwin James action back in the secondary. Now, looking what the Chargers have done the past couple of weeks, you say, Phillip Rivers, what the hell are you doing? Can't you just run a competent offense and you should be able to win some of these games? That should be the case. So even though 8 out of 10 tickets coming in on the Chargers, I still lean towards that direction. Cleveland and Pittsburgh, the same thing you're going to get. Hey, we love Duck. Look, Duck Hodges had one play where he threw the ball down the middle 20 yards where 2 defensive backs ran into each other and they got an 87-yard touchdown out of it. He hasn't been all that impressive. I know it's a lot of hype saying, oh, man, it's going to be so great. Their offense isn't going to move the football. They don't have that many weapons. So this is going to be a Pittsburgh defense looking to absolutely throw a shutout on the Cleveland Browns in order to beat them. I trust Cleveland more in that spot. And then looking at that Sunday Night Football game, I'm looking forward to this. Trying to make a case and all week long to take the 3.5 with the Houston Texans because sooner or later that inept offense is actually going to catch up to you for New England. But if New England can get somewhat healthy on offense, Ian, maybe a sneaky team total over on the New England Patriots playing in good weather conditions, maybe getting Mohamed Sanu back, maybe opening it up a little bit because I'm not a huge fan of that Houston defense. Sometimes looking at what Bill O'Brien can do, being matched up against Bill Belichick scares me a little bit, but all 3 of those big-time weapons back and healthy for Houston, that should be a fun game to watch.
Absolutely, it should be. And before we let Donnie go, we got to get his take. Minnesota, Seattle, the Monday Nighter. Should be a great game in the Pacific Northwest. Seattle, 2.5, 50 the total. 2 teams with playoff aspirations. Certainly Minnesota certainly can still win the NFC North, battling with Green Bay for top spot. Vikings and Seahawks, Donnie, Monday night. That should be a good game.
Yep, if I can get 3 points in this game and I can get a healthy Adam Thielen at the starting gate, I'm going to back the Minnesota Vikings in this game. But if Adam Thielen doesn't play in this football game, that really throws a wrench in what you like to do for the Minnesota Vikings, where a guy that's open on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 every single time, one of the better wide receivers in the NFL, then you can focus on Stephon Diggs and maybe try to slow down the running backs of Dalvin Cook. And it's hard to bet on Russell. It's hard to bet against Russell Wilson in Seattle, especially in prime time, one of the best quarterbacks to ever do it. But I got to say, if Thielen is healthy, and keep in mind, he had a limited practice and didn't show too much yesterday. Keep in mind going forward, they have the extra day to get ready on Monday. But if he's healthy and ready, Minnesota off a bye, they should be good to go in this one, Ian. Yeah,
really good spot, too, with Zimmer extra time to prepare. That's usually a good thing for the Minnesota Vikings. All right, great breakdown, Donnie, on the NFL card. Excellent segment, excellent spot. And we're going to have another excellent spot lined up on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon at noon Eastern time. Sunday NFL closing line show. It'll be Donnie Rightside. It'll be yours truly, and it'll be Jay as we break down the Sunday NFL card 1 hour before kickoff. Donnie, great stuff. Great to be with you. Have a great day. Great rest of your holiday weekend. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again on Sunday. We do the closing line show. Have a good one, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming. And Ian, great job on the show, filling in, knowledgeable on every single sport. Guys, if you're not following Ian, you're doing it wrong here at SBR. Congratulations, man. You're doing a great job. Love it. I'll see you on Sunday, man.
All right, Donnie, thanks. I appreciate the kind words. All right, great stuff. Donnie Rightside talking NFL. We go right from Donnie to Adam Booth, my NHL Play of the Day video colleague, 3 days a week. But we're bringing him on the Betting with the Bag show because I'm hosting, and it gives us a chance to break down the entire NHL card. And this is a big NHL card we've got today on this Black Friday. So let's get right down to business. Let's welcome in my friend Adam Booth, who I do these NHL videos with 3 days a week right here on SBR YouTube channel. Adam, how are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. You're looking sharp. I love the new haircut. Very fresh. I've got to shave. I've got to keep up with you and keep the hair to a minimum for these shows. But I loved hearing Donnie's energy and his take on the NFL games. But we got a first game starting in an hour. So how much time do we have for the hockey today?
Oh, we got about 40 minutes, maybe a little less than that, so we'll go quickly through these. But yeah, this is I don't have the gangster mafia haircut look going today, slick back look. No, I got my haircut yesterday, and the hairstylist suggested something different. I said, you know what, I'm usually a stickler for that, but I said, what the hell, let's try something different. So this is what you got for better or worse. All right. Rangers and Bruins to begin the hockey card. We've got Bruins minus 215. Home favorites here. The total 6.5 shaded to the over minus 120 in this game. Certainly the Rangers starting to pick up some steam. Holy mackerel. Have they actually won 3 games in a row? For one of the few times this year? Yes, they have. They're starting to play a little bit better, but are they ready to take on this Bruins team that just, you know what, no Bergeron, no problem. Krejci's been great on the top line with Marchand and Pasternak. No let up there from the top line, even with Bergeron injured. They've found ways to play well, win games. Not even close to their best game against Ottawa in a tough spot, back-to-back, but still pulled out the win. I passed on this game side or total. Adam, did you find an edge, Rangers and Bruins?
So at this point, I'm being really meticulous today. I'm in a slump this past week, and I'm really taking my time with the card today. I've only taken 2 shots, so this isn't one of the ones I've had so far. But the 2 plays I am considering are on opposing sides. One is the Boston puck line. It's a bit of the square play, but I do have that at 55%, which I think the odds right now for the puck line are around plus 100, 110, somewhere in there. That's the one side. And then I'm also considering the Rangers team total over 2.5. Again, if you look at sort of the angles in the game, Halak's in. He's got 4 loss. He's 5-4 in the year, 5-1-3. His save percentage isn't too bad. And his goals against, again, are like sub 2.5 or something there. He's playing well. Hank's been confirmed for the Rangers. He started out the season slow. He has picked up over the last few games. So if you're someone who likes to buy into the goalie head-to-heads, I would say Hank is good to go in this game. At this point, though, I'm like you. It's a bit of a tricky one. I was thinking Bruins on the puck line first. But again, they've had these games where it's sort of like, I was thinking back to the Minnesota one, where they were 4-2 down, and a good team, they got 2 goals in the last minute and a half there. But they're playing a lot of close games against teams that they should probably be taking care of earlier in the game, like they did against the Habs. And yeah, so that's a tough one for me. I'll just pass on that one for now.
All right, on we go. Most of these games, by the way, are afternoon, the ones that we're about to talk about. There's only 3 games that are 7 p.m. Eastern and onward. So most of these are late afternoon games, including this one, Toronto-Buffalo. We've got Toronto minus 155, road favorites, total 6.5, shaded to the over. I know it's Michael Hutchinson in net, and I know he's winless on the season, but I've tackled Toronto in a couple of different ways here in this game. Toronto in regulation, which you can get close to even money. Toronto puck line. I've still laid a puck and a half with Toronto, even with Hutchinson in net. I think there's an incentive to get this guy a victory, Adam. I really, really do. Sheldon Keefe and the Leafs have called him up again, given him a second chance. Understand that it was not all Hutchinson and why he played poorly in his first stint with this team. They were a shit show in front of him defensively, bad play, turnovers, the whole bit. Hutchinson hasn't had a chance to play with this new energized Toronto team since the coaching change. I think he'll play better. I think the team in front of him will play much better here. In Buffalo, we've talked about it. This team just continuing to sputter for the most part. They beat Florida the other night, for their one win during this ugly streak, but they lost to Tampa the next night, and then an overtime loss to Calgary at home in their last game. And for me, it's very, very simple. This is a newfound energy for the Leafs. They're playing like it. So I've got 2 plays on Toronto, one on the regulation line minus 110, and also Toronto laying the goal and a half here. And yeah, I know it's Hutchinson in net, but I do think they'll play better for him today than they did in that first stint. Again, this is Hutchinson's first chance to play with this reinvigorated Leafs team after the coaching change. Adam, what's your take on Leafs Sabres?
Yeah, again, that's the play you've been making for the past 3 games, and I can't blame you. I think the value is with the Leafs. I mean, the Sabres, you take away their opening. I mean, you could do this with a lot of teams, but if you do take away their opening 10, 11 games, their numbers are actually pretty awful. Additionally, I mean, they're missing Rodriguez now again. Dahlin's still out, and Eichel is their offense at the moment, and he's very talented. I think I saw he's put up 15 points in 15 games against the Leafs in his career. He plays well against them, but when you compare the breadth of the talent on the Leafs and the fact that they are in a good groove right now. I mean, the Leafs are playing against some of the weaker opposition. I mean, well, okay, I should say Detroit, then Buffalo, and Buffalo. The Colorado and Arizona are good teams, but Detroit, and I think they have the home and home with Buffalo coming up. So I think these are good teams for the Leafs to pick on. Well, I mean, a lot of the goals were a bit fortunate, lucky bounces against the Red Wings, but they absolutely dominated them from start to finish in the last one. So I think it's at Leafs, even though it's the short price on the road, I think this is Leafs or pass today.
All right, Leafs are passing again, undefeated since the coaching. They're going to lose eventually, but again, when you see the team with the uptick after a coaching change, and I spot it and I get on it, I don't get off it till they lose, and that's the case here with the Leafs. Detroit, Philadelphia minus 275, total 6. Look, Detroit is just a disaster right now, and it's not just their play on the ice, Adam. It's the injuries. I mean, you talk about Buffalo with the injuries up front, the injuries to Dahlin. How about Detroit? How about being without, Anthony Mantha, who's been one of your best offensive players? How about being without 3 of your top 6 defensemen, Mike Green, Trevor Daley, and Danny DeKeyser? How about Jimmy Howard now getting injured the last game against Toronto? And a sick, under the weather, dealing with the flu, Jonathan Bernier had to.
He wasn't even dressed for the game. They had to wait for him to go in the tunnel to get changed. I mean, yeah, it was a perfect scenario for us to pick up on the Leafs win there. But yeah, Detroit, you might say, Philly is not, a Boston, and that's kind of the price they're getting. But this is the Detroit is at rock bottom at the moment price, and I do understand it for that sense. You're right. Sorry to interrupt you, man.
No, that's okay. I don't have anything on this game. Philly is no way even close to a minus 275. And even regulation line, puck line are not the value I'm looking for with the Flyers in this game. It's a Philly or pass for me with Detroit with just struggling mightily. They can't score. They're injury riddled. One goalie's hurt. The other guy has been battling with the flu the last couple days. We'll see, A, if Bernier starts, and B, if he's feeling any better than he was the other night against Toronto. We'll have to wait and see. But it's Philly or pass, but I'm passing. There's just no value on the Flyers to me.
So the 2 plays I was looking at for this one were the Philly puck line, which I have just a touch above 50%, and the Detroit team total under 2.5. When I made my notes, it was at like minus 140, I think, and it's started to drop down at Pinnacle and a few other places. So I'm not surprised to see that. Detroit, I mean, you talked about Mantha being out, and they already had an anemic offense. So those are the 2 plays I'm considering for that. Again, I will tweet out everything I'm on after the show.
All right, Colorado, Chicago minus 115, total 6. How about the Beast Slayers, the Chicago Blackhawks? Talking about beating Dallas the other night. Very impressive win for the Blackhawks. Although Dallas was on a back-to-back, but still don't take anything away from the Blackhawks. Played a really good game against the Dallas Stars, getting the victory, handing the Stars a rare loss. Can they do it again here against Colorado? We talked about Colorado the other day, and it's why I didn't love Edmonton in that game, even though they were getting a nice price. Colorado off the home loss to Toronto. They got plastered by Edmonton earlier this season in Edmonton when they had those goalie injuries. Grubauer was hurt. Francouz was hurt as well, Colorado, in that game, and Edmonton took advantage. Colorado paid him back on Tuesday night with a 4-1 win, or Wednesday night, I should say, with a 4-1 win. Not a game I'm involved with from a side or total perspective. Chicago's playing under the total. Chicago has really gone from being this huge dead nuts over team last year to almost the polar opposite, especially of lately. They've been playing a lot of lower scoring hockey. So it's really a contrast to styles here. I didn't get involved in this game, Adam. Did you, with Avs and Blackhawk?
Not yet, no. I have Chicago at 54% to win this one. The Avs announced that Rantanen is going to be back for tomorrow. Now, there's a home and home here. These are always unique situations with, Avs are coming into Chicago for tonight, and then they're traveling back to Colorado to host the Hawks tomorrow. These are always interesting. You never know whether you should flip to the other side for game two, or just you like the factors that led to the win in the previous one, you stick with the game, or just take one shot and then pass in the second, whatever. It's always an interesting approach. But yeah, Burakovsky was announced out. He has been really good this season. And let's see, Landeskog still out, Johnson, Calvert, and I think it's a good spot for the Hawks, and I didn't mind the price. I'm still considering it. I don't see any reason really to go against them. I thought the Avalanche were the better team through most of that game against the Oilers, and they definitely just made the most of their opportunities and put it away in the third. But this isn't a, 100% Avalanche team still. We can see how they play out tonight, maybe pass tonight and have a consideration for tomorrow. But I think I'll be on the Hawks or nothing here. And total, I would lean to the under, but nothing yet.
All right, so I was just saying in the chat, yes, with Burakovsky out, it's going to be Donskoy, McKinnon, and JT Compher is going to be the guy that moves on up to the top line to take Burakovsky. That's a real shame, because that top line's been, I don't want to say it's been McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen good, but it's been pretty damn close.
Yeah,
with Burakovsky up there with McKinnon and Donskoy the last couple of weeks. And now that another guy on that top line goes down, you got to put in another player on that top line, this case being Compher. So how many more times can Jared Bednar, due to injury, have to put a guy on the top line and still have it produce at the same clip? That's going to be the question moving forward. He got the chemistry rolling with Burakovsky there. Now he's got to see if Compher can move on up to play with Donskoy and McKinnon and still give you that same bang for your buck, that same production. We'll see if they can here in this game against Chicago. So that's the one thing. The injuries are really mounting. It's becoming tough. Like the price on Colorado, it looks like a steal, but I'm telling you what, the injuries are really starting to mount, and at some point, you can only handle so many of them. Winnipeg, Anaheim, we've got Anaheim minus 130, total 5.5. I'm not betting Anaheim games for the foreseeable future, Adam. I'm just not doing it. Every time I bet on them, they lose, and every time I bet against them, they win. That's what the Ducks have done to me a lot this season. Winnipeg, give them credit. Great win against San Jose the other night, 5-1. Dominated the Sharks, a red-hot San Jose Sharks team in the Shark Tank. I'm telling you what, Winnipeg looks appealing to me at a plus price, but I'm telling you what, I know damn well if I bet it, Anaheim's going to win. I mean, that's just the way it's gone for me in Ducks games. So I lean Jets, but I'm going to pass, but I definitely would lean Jets. If I'm playing, I'm looking at the road team here, Adam. What's your take on Jets-Ducks?
Yeah, Jets just seem like the obvious play here, a bit too obvious. The nice price, the struggling Anaheim team. I mean, Anaheim will, like you said, they're the type of annoying team where they'll win when you least want them to. And I think a lot of people were on the Islanders the other night. That one I wasn't on. As far as my past week, it hasn't been great, but that one I did avoid. And the reason is Anaheim, if it's a low-scoring game, if the opposing team wants to make it low-scoring, that's something that's going to play to a Ducks team that struggles on the power play, has struggled to find, goal scoring through most of the season. With Arizona, I thought the Ducks were the better team against the Coyotes the other night. But again, Gibson is not Gibson of last year, and he's not stealing game. What I mean by that, he's not stealing games with the consistency that he did for the Ducks last year. And Jets, on that side, Hellebuck has been phenomenal this year. This was the goalie of 2 seasons ago when, everybody was picking him up for their fantasy teams and sort of came out of the rough and was excellent for them. So, if Jets are focused on defense first. Yeah, there's a good chance they leave the Ducks in the game, but at the same time, their offense is a bit better, and they've got better weapons, and they're in a groove right now. So I don't get why it's a 2.1 or sorry plus 110 plus 100. It should be lower in my eyes. Again, I'm still working on that, so we'll see what it comes down to.
Yeah, the total here, of course, is 5.5. And with Anaheim, it's been weird. I mean, they've had some overs, some unders. They did go over the total 5.5 against Arizona the other night.
Yeah.
I want to see who's in net for this game, first of all. At 5.5, I may consider the over. Again, I've got to wait to see who's in that. I don't know if I'd want to rush to do that with Hellebuck versus Gibson, if that's the goalie matchup right now. But we'll see if Brossoit or Miller are in there, either of these two backups for these teams. Maybe we'll look at an over, but that's just unconfirmed as of right now.
And also you might want to consider that. I don't know how many team totals you like to play in, but if I was leaning over, I would say the Jets are going to put in most of the legwork to get there. That's just kind of a lean I would have. So I think the total on 2.5 for the Jets is sitting between minus 130 and minus 125, somewhere in there.
All right, next up on the slate, we've got LA San Jose, always a good rivalry. Even though the Kings are not a great team this year, it's still a very passion-filled matchup whenever these teams meet up. Any of those California teams play each other. It's a good rivalry and hatred they've got. San Jose minus 150, total 6 shaded to the under. They just played earlier this week in LA. San Jose got out to an early lead, almost blew it. In fact, they did, because LA came back to tie it. But Patrick Marleau, the old warhorse, rescues the San Jose Sharks in overtime with the game winner to beat the Kings. So short turnaround revenge spot for LA, but I don't factor that in. San Jose's off a loss that humbled them a little bit. They're feeling good. They're reading their press clippings. Everything's just flying for this team offensively. Martin Jones had been better in net until the last game against Winnipeg. So it's a bounce back spot at home, off a home loss for the San Jose Sharks. So I don't want to go against them in this spot. And again, I'm not looking for reasons to back LA. They are truly one of the worst bottom feeder teams in the NHL, and San Jose, I think, is in a bounce back type of spot here in this one. I don't want to lay $1.50, so I'm not involved in this game, but a lean to San Jose wouldn't surprise me to see them win here. Adam, what's your thoughts on Kings versus Sharks?
Well, I was on the Kings for the previous match, and that was one that was stolen from them. I mean, the San Jose, you could say San Jose deserved to win it because they got the 3-0 lead. But beyond that, I thought the Kings were far better team. And if you look over the recent stretch of games, San Jose might have the better record, but the Kings are better on the offensive and defensive side. Quick's got a 2.0 goals against. I mean, where was the Quick from a month ago when everyone was saying, take the overs? He's allowing 75 save percentage, and this is part of just the flux of a season. I mean, all of a sudden he's good, or they're playing well in front of him, or they're limiting the shots against him so it looks better for his save percentage, whatever you want to call it. San Jose still has that best penalty kill in the league, or second, somewhere up there. I do think Hurdle being out is still a concern for their offense, but I'm going to go back to the Kings here. This was my dog play of the day for the article. You can read more about why. I'm going to be on the Kings money line, I am on the Kings money line, but I'm going to be on either their team total over 2.5 or the reverse puck line. See if I can get it in this time around. So again, with these cross California trips, it's not so much you're on the road. These guys have played in each other's buildings so many times. It's a very short distance, so I don't consider it as much of a road trip. It's just a couple hours. So I'm on Kings, and I'm going to be adding either the team total or minus 1.5 on them.
Yeah, and that reverse puck line for sure. If you're going to go that route, you're definitely, in my opinion, going to be looking at something really good in terms of a price, like in the plus 290, plus 300 range for sure.
No, it'll be above that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be a really good price on the Kings with the reverse puck line. So a live dog for Adam here with the Kings. Yeah, I lean San Jose, but I'm not backing it. That's for sure. I mean, that's not,
well.
I
think you're right. Off of, like you mentioned, it was the bad loss against the Jets, 5-1, and overall they have been playing decent defense. Jones is playing all right. They've got some legitimate offensive threats. They've got veteran leadership. I mean, overall, San Jose is the better team compared to the Kings, but we're just trying to find that groove compared to the pricing and compare where the value is. And if, that was my angle here.
All right, good stuff. Ottawa, Minnesota. Oh, this is a bit of an ugly matchup here. Minnesota minus 175, total 5.5 shaded to the over. This is not a best bet for me, but I'm going to take a small piece of Ottawa here. I mean, all this team does is battle their tails off every game, other than one game where they got just absolutely their doors blown off, I think, by Carolina. It was a couple of weeks ago. Name me the game they've been totally blown out and looked inferior in. No, they've been in every game, it seems. Even the Boston game the other night, right in that game from start to finish. The Columbus game, 1-0 loss, right in that game from start to finish. Minnesota's not a team I trust in this price range. I know they're playing a little bit better hockey, feeling good about themselves after beating New Jersey the other night, but still, they blew a lead to Boston and lost before that. They blew a lead to the New York Rangers and lost before that. They've had some issues holding on to leads, and all Ottawa does, even though they're a young team rebuilding, offense is a concern for Ottawa. They don't score a lot of goals. They've really, really become one of the dead nuts under teams, Adam, in the NHL. They are really making a purpose of trying to win games 2-1. You know, that's the way DJ Smith, the head coach, wants them to play. Defense first, protect the net, and then score off that when you can. They're going to try to grind this game down into a tight, white-knuckler, low-scoring battle. So I would lean under as well, even though it's 5.5, but you do at least have even money with the under in this game. But more than anything, I think at this big dog price, this hard-working, hard-trying Ottawa team, it seems to be in every game lately against a team I don't trust as a favorite in this price range, Minnesota. I think Ottawa's worth a small. This is my dog of the day. If you're looking for a big dog, this would probably be it for me. I think you could do worse than taking a chance with Ottawa here. Adam, what's your thoughts on Senators and Wild?
Well, first, do you know if Capo Kakkonen is in today, or is it going to go back to Stalock? Did you hear about that?
Projected to be Kakkonen, and he won against New Jersey in his first start, so it makes me think Bruce Boudreau might ride him again for another game. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but it's projected to be him. Nilsson has been confirmed the starter in net for Ottawa, Anders Nilsson. Right. So I still like Ottawa. I think the price is good enough.
Yeah, no, I was just curious. I would say Nilsson and whether it's the new guy or Stalock, I would say those are the better three goalies. Dubnyk and Anderson have not had great seasons so far. One thing I did hear as far as a media thing is the team sort of rallying around Dubnyk's issue with his wife being ill, and we saw what kind of wonders that did for the Ottawa Senators 2 seasons ago when they went all the way to whatever, I forget how far it was in the playoffs, but we do see little rallying calls like this from time to time. For me, I was on the Minnesota puck line when they went to play in Ottawa. I think they won 2-0. It was the first win of the season. For most of that game, it was Senators. I would say the Senators are very lethal and they're a live dog in this spot, like you mentioned, for your play. I have nothing on this at the moment. It's tough for me. I don't know. I'm going to pass on this one. I've had to think about it, and it's a tricky spot for me at the moment.
Yeah, Minnesota definitely at home has been pretty decent lately. There's no question. But we're talking about a price range where Minnesota wins so many close games. Where's the game where Minnesota absolutely runs away and hides from the team? They win so many one-goal games. And I get the sense with Ottawa, the style they're playing, just tight checking, tight to the vest, really are trying to doing a good job keeping, like they kept Boston in check most of that game. In fact, they dominated Boston. Boston very fortunate that Ottawa didn't capitalize on any of their chances the other night. I think they're worth a shot. I think they got a puncher's chance, and puncher's chance at plus 155 means it's a bet for me. So there you go, Ottawa for me in that game. Tampa Bay, Washington. Great game here. Washington minus 120. The resurgent Lightning, they're on fire. They're playing their best hockey right now. Total 6.5 shade to the over. Yeah, we gotta eat some pulp here.
I'm gonna have
with this.
Ian, I have to disagree with you on the best. They're playing their best hockey right now. You finished your bit, but I would say if you saw those last 4 games, 5 games, maybe 6 games, they're getting away with a little bit of lucky fortune here. And it cost them against St. Louis.
Against St. Louis, yes, that's true. St. Louis finally they got a loss, and the one thing that you could pick at with Tampa Bay's
Yeah.
wins lately is a lot of them have come against the Sisters of the Poor, the weaker
Yes.
teams. They have still struggled to step up in class, and obviously they're stepping up in class here against a very good Washington team. Look, Tampa Bay is flying over the total again. They're back to their over the total ways. I think they've gone over the total in the majority of their recent games. We know Washington, another over last game against Florida. That was one of my bets on the Wednesday card, Florida, Washington over. Got to eat some juice here. And there is actually a 7 at Pinnacle. So there is a 7 that has popped up at Pinnacle, but it's still 6.5 shaded to the over at other spots. Hey, at anything below 7 with Tampa right now, and certainly with Washington, I'm going to take overs below 7 any day right now with these two teams. So I'm on over 6.5 here, minus 140, Lightning and Capitals. What's your thoughts on this one? Should be a good game.
Yeah, I like the over 6.5. I have it at 58%, so it's not quite that significant of value, but I think you got to look at the over. Either team here could put it away. As far as the side, model has it at 60% to the Caps, so that is going to be. I'm going to be on the Caps later today. I was just sort of it took a while for some of those lines to go up on this game, but yeah, Caps and over. I mean, it's sort of the obvious thing, but I don't think this is a game you overthink. Caps, we saw the other night, they can still produce offense if there's sloppiness in the defensive zone like there was with Florida. I think they had 2 or 3 of their goals were on sort of odd man rushes. Ovi got a beautiful one, and forget who it was, the young guy who got the 4th goal there. But yeah, I don't see this Tampa. I mean, Tampa has won 3 of their last 4, but within this sort of spell recently, it's been shaky. They've been outplayed in some of these wins, and I thought they played better against the Blues, but St. Louis just they're kind of Tampa's kryptonite at the moment. As well, I believe Stamkos is back. I did hear that, right? Did you hear differently? I thought I heard
he was
Stamkos is back.
questionable. They were hoping he would be back today. The latest reports indicate he's likely going to be back. It looks like they're going to. There actually looks like they're going to put him on the second line with Cirelli and Killorn. Apparently, John Cooper's happy with Palat, Point, and Kucherov, which has been the top line with Stamkos out. He wants to keep that line together because it's been working.
Yeah, no, I think again, when you have a guy coming back from injury and you sort of maybe one line is clicking for them, you don't really want to shake it up. I mean, it's different in a case like Colorado where it's, Rantanen is going to play on the top line. But when you have the depth that Tampa has, and if he feels like they've been clicking a bit, it makes sense to me.
Absolutely, because they got a bunch of guys that could be top 6 forwards on this team. I mean, it'd be first line, second line, or go from the first to the second line, or the second line to the top line. And I think because John Cooper has seen, wow, there's some chemistry right now with these 3 guys on the top line with Stamkos out, and it's been working. We'll just ease Stamkos back in. He can slide in on the second line. And he's obviously still dangerous there with playing with the likes of Killorn and Cirelli. And Cirelli's been excellent. Cirelli scored the other night against St. Louis. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot of offense to go around. They found that offense. There's still, if you're a metrics guy, Adam, and I know you're a numbers guy, and you look at stuff like high danger scoring chances, Tampa's still giving up way too many of those. And that could really, really burn them here in a game like this against Washington. And the penalty killing has been a little bit better, but it started to suffer again. St. Louis, I think, had a power play goal or 2 the other night, and we know Washington's power play is lethal. So that's why I like goals. I think Tampa will get some. Washington will. It should be Vasilevsky against Holtby, your goalie matchup. I know it's a back-to-back for both teams. Vasilevsky's been confirmed for Tampa. Not yet Holtby, but Washington's playing Detroit tomorrow, so you would think Holtby is in for the bigger game against the better team here today. Arizona, Vegas minus 165, 5.5 the total here in this one. No goalie confirmations, but it is Kemper for Arizona, I should say, but none for Vegas yet. Will Fleury be back? That's the question. He's been away from the team due to a personal matter that he's dealing with. There's talk he might be back today. If not, we're seeing Malcolm Subban again, and this is an over bet for me if Subban's in. We've cashed overs now in each Subban start this week. If he's in, I'm liking over 5.5 here in this game. Even though Arizona's a low-scoring team, they've gone over the total a little bit more. Their Anaheim game with Arizona went over the total in their last game, 5.5. It got to 4-3 final score. And with Subban in the net, and there's a potential he still might be, I'll definitely have a good long look at the over 5.5 in this game. Adam, what's your thoughts on the Coyotes and Golden Knights?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and I was considering Vegas, but I prefer the over 5.5 here. Even if Subban's not in net, I mentioned this the other day. Subban will win games. He will have good performances. He's not the trash goalie, but if the play in front of him is sloppy and there's too much coming his way, he's more
Correct.
susceptible to let in maybe a shaky goal that a Fleury would have had or a Kemper would have had. So I would say go to the over as the more probable pick here than either side. I think the Knights are a bit short, even though I was leaning their way, before the numbers came up. I think the number on their odds is a bit short given sort of their recent form in front of Subban. I mean, they stole that win on the Preds the other night. Full marks to them. They capitalized. Preds played sloppy in that final five seconds. I mean, Knights did have chances before that, but I like the over 5.5 best here, and I will most likely be on that later.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. 5.5 with the Vegas game and potentially with Subban in net one more time. And like you said, even with Fleury, he's been out for almost a week and hasn't played. So will he be sharp right away? And again, it's more than just the goaltending. It's the defensive play in front of the goalies for Vegas continues to be shoddy at times. I mean, they're running around, losing coverage in their own zone. It's happened a lot lately, and it's happened a lot the last several weeks. That's why Vegas has struggled with their current form the last few weeks. Pittsburgh, Columbus, we're down to our last 3 games. We're doing great for time. We've got about 6-7 minutes left. We've got down to our last 3 games, so we're on a great pace, Adam. We're doing a great job here. Pittsburgh minus 125. Yeah, Pittsburgh minus 125, road favorites, total 6 here in this game. Look, Pittsburgh, what a win for them the other night against Vancouver. They just won't say die. No Sidney Crosby. We missed Letang for a bit. Had some injuries to deal with. But they never say die. They could have said, that's not it, our night. Matt Murray got pulled. It was ugly for him. Matt Murray was horrendous in the game against Vancouver. Awful. There were a couple of those goals he should have had. He got pulled. They were down 6-3 early in the third period. But Pittsburgh just puts their foot down, makes it 6-4. The building gets energized in Pittsburgh. They keep coming in waves against Thatcher Demko and the Canuck defense. They make it 6-5. They tie it up 6-6, and sure enough, 7-6. And Evgeny Malkin continues to be a tower of power and a pillar of strength in Sidney Crosby's absence for this Pittsburgh Penguins team. I'll give them credit. They might prove me wrong. I said Pittsburgh's a bet against team coming into the season. I said they'll miss the playoffs in the East, I think. Well, they're proving me wrong right now. They're making me eat my words. They're playing good. They've managed to win games with the injuries they've had to incur this season, and I am out of the business. I am out of the Pittsburgh Penguins bet against business right now in this game today. They've proven me that they're finding ways to win. Their confidence is sky high. They proved against Vancouver. Now, Vancouver was sloppy as hell, but they're never out of a game. Pittsburgh proved that the other night. So this is a Penguins or pass game for me here at this short road favorite price, 6 the total. Maybe you lean over a little bit, but Columbus is one of those teams that they can go over one game like they did, I think, against Philly the other day, and then be right back to a low-scoring, like a 1-0 type of game they had against Ottawa. So they're a dicey team from a totals perspective. A lean to Pittsburgh, but that's just it for me, a lean in this game. Adam, how about you, Penguins, Jack?
Yeah, I haven't been on the fade Pittsburgh train at all this year. Almost from the get-go, I've liked what they've been doing, and rode them for a little bit of a dry spell when I think it was Malkin was first out. Yeah, not Crosby. When because Malkin's only played, I think, 14 games this year, and he's already got 19 points. So you're 100% right. He shows up when Crosby's out. Crosby shows up when Malkin's out. This is the championship caliber team that they've been over the past decade. Whatever concussion problems are happening, this team's stars do perform when the more pressure is on them. I was on Pitt moneyline the other night. I don't know what it was about the early play. I mean, yeah, they did squeak out the win. They created lots of offensive chances. Sometimes games are just going to go like that. But I want to take Pittsburgh moneyline here on the road. They're playing good enough defense that I would say they're the better defensive team compared to the Jackets, minus the 6 goals that they allowed against Vancouver. It was a bit sloppy. They did have some careless penalties too. And then they've got the offensive weapons. I mean, beyond Malkin, Gensel is leading the scoring way at 25 points in 25 games. McCann's chipping in. Offensively, they also have the advantage. And if Jari's in net, which I think Mr. Ghoster just commented that he is, That's probably the icing on the cake for me, and I'm just not going to overthink that one either, and take the slightly favored Penguins over their rival. Now Columbus, I mean they did lose to the Flyers the other day. Philly's a good team too. They got the job done against Ottawa. They've been playing. I think they had the most one-goal games in the league this year. I mean they are playing close regardless of the quality of their opponent. So you leave a team hanging around, they could squeak one out. But I think the value is with the Penguins.
Yeah, it's Penguins or nothing for me, definitely. Crystal clear. We're not going against Pittsburgh anytime soon. They've impressed me more than enough. Nashville, Carolina. Carolina minus 130. 6.5 the total, down to our final two games in this one. Very interesting game. Nashville, obviously, tough loss the other night. They had that one won against Vegas, up 3-2. Vegas ties it with a second to go. 3-3, and Vegas wins in overtime 4-3 against Nashville. Crushing loss. Prior to that, though, Nashville playing some better hockey after an extended losing streak. See if they're able to bounce back here against Carolina. But Carolina's also in bounce back mode. They had their win streak snapped, losing to the Rangers the other night. So you got two teams that should be going after it. And when I see two teams that I think are bringing something to the table, wanting to get a win and bounce back after a loss, especially with two teams that have shown the ability lately to find the back of the net. Maybe a lean to the over in this game. I was hoping for 6. I think it's odds makers weren't caught sleeping here. They made it 6.5. I don't really love it at that number because sometimes with both of these teams, at 6.5, it can be dicey at times to go over. But that would be my lean over the total. Nashville, Carolina, Adam, what do you got?
So yeah, it's an interesting one. You know, it's cross conference, and it's not one teams that have particular animosity for one another. Again, you said both off a loss. You know, I did watch a bit of that Rangers game that we were on Wednesday there. Rangers ambushed them in the first. Great opening period. Then they had some penalty trouble in the second, and it sort of started to feel like Carolina was going to come back and steal that one from the Rangers. They didn't. Opposite side of the coin, Preds were, I thought, the better team again for most of the game against the Knights. They get one sloppy goal in the third period there in the final second. Then a sloppy overtime, they allow 2-0. That's all it takes sometimes to lose, and a better team can, your money line play on the better team that was playing better for most of the game for 59 minutes just goes down the toilet. So for me, I'm looking at Carolina because I think on the back end they have more things figured out at the moment. The Predator series back home and home with the Blues was, they got 2 wins there, but again, it's feels closer than this. The games are running very close for the Preds, even in the narrow victories. And so I think the Canes, they get energized when they are playing at home. That arena loves them, especially off of last season. I like that as a sort of additional thing to what the model says. The pricing I have for the Canes today was 58% to win. So that's where the value is. I'm looking at their money line and maybe even a puck line play.
All right, like in Carolina, Kakalaki, the Hurricanes, the Storm Surge, as they like to be called, Carolina against Nashville. St. Louis, Dallas, our last game before we wrap up the show. Again, I apologize for no NBA and college basketball on the show. It's a loaded day. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to every sport. Tune into Jay Money's show at the top of the hour if you want NBA thoughts and NBA coverage on the Friday card. And, of course, the late show, Maxwell Smart will be on. He'll get you covered with college basketball. My apologies. It's that unfortunately there's just so much going on. You can only do so much in 90 minutes. But definitely, if you like basketball, the channel will have you covered later today. St. Louis, Dallas minus 150. Home favorites total 5 in this. 5. I had to do a double take. 5. It dropped from 5.5 down to 5 now, the total. Shaded to the over in this game. Obviously, Dallas, thought of more as an under team, no question. But boy, 5 with the way Dallas has scored goals. Well, prior to getting shut out by Chicago, but prior to that, Chicago was scoring a bit more goals. I might take a chance on this over the total. 5 minus 140 at 5 dimes right now. That's a low number, and Dallas has had an uptick offensively. I know they got shut out the other night against Chicago, but maybe a chance at home, bounce back offensively a little bit. I think it'll be Bishop and Binnington, your 2 goalies. Bishop has been confirmed for the Stars, Binnington for St. Louis. has not been confirmed yet, but I would expect it to be him in net in this game. So I don't know. With Dallas, again, that's still on I believe, 5-2 or 6-2 to the over run in their last 7 or 8 games, and now the total down to 5. I'm kind of interested over the total. 5 over minus 140. That might be my look here in this game. Adam, any thoughts on the final game on the board? Blues, Stars.
Yeah, I got quite a few thoughts on this one. This was my play of the day. I took the Stars money line. So let me just get into it a little bit here. I think we're good for time. So if we look at the total, this is not a total based on recency of goals for, goals against for either of these teams. This is the head-to-head pricing, where if you look back through, the last 10 games or 8 games or whatever it is, so many of the games have gone 2-1, 3-2, 2-0, in that realm of scoreline. Their one meeting this year, the Blues took at the same price we see the Stars at. They took it 3-2. Now, that was a Stars team that started out very, very slow. We know that. So this is not the same Stars team as that team. The Blues, they like to, as I mentioned, they like to play low-scoring games. But I think the Stars do. I think the Stars are very comfortable to do that too. I don't like a 5 being in November when most of those unders came between these two post-January in the playoffs last year. Playoff hockey is very different, especially when you have, phenomenally hot goalies like Binnington and Bishop. I think we saw that they're both got the green light tonight. So, of course, one of them could get a shutout tonight. It ends 3-0. But I think if you do play the over, my recommendation is don't go for the chalk on the 5. Take the plus money on the 5.5. I have it at 52% for the over 5.5. So again, if it ends on a 5, you save that money, but it's probably more likely to be like a 3-1 or a 2-1 if it's staying under than it is to be a 3-2 when nobody scores an empty net. That's how I'm seeing the over here. But the only play I've made on this so far is the Dallas Stars money line.
Yeah, Dallas not a team I'm going against right now. I know they finally lost the other night in Chicago. That was not a great Stars spot, back-to-back on the road. They played Vegas the night before. I think you can forgive them for losing that game. They're still playing really good hockey the last 2 weeks and obviously wanting to bounce back at home here, laying minus 150 against St. Louis. All right, Adam plays a lot, so get his plays on Twitter. Read his articles at sportsbookreview.com. We won't recap everything he's got because he's got a lot more volume daily than I do. I'll throw out what I've got. I've got Toronto in regulation, Toronto puck line against Buffalo. I will be on Ottawa plus 155 against Minnesota. I will be on Tampa Bay, Washington over 6.5 minus 140. I will be on the Arizona, Vegas over 5.5 minus 115. It's looking like it's going to be Subban, so I like the over in that game. I'd lean Arizona a little bit too at the plus price in that game. Pittsburgh or pass. I'd probably pass. I'd leave that alone. And maybe the over in St. Louis, Dallas. But my main bets are the 2 Toronto bets, regulation puck line, Ottawa, Tampa Bay, Washington over 6.5, and Arizona, Vegas over 5.5. Those are my top 4 or 5 plays today, I should say, on this Friday NHL card. Great stuff, Adam. I have a lot of fun doing this, whether it's the play of the day videos with you 3 days a week or you joining me on this show. It's been great. We're back to the play of the day video format tomorrow, 10:15 a.m. Eastern time. We are back to that. We'll give our favorite top play from the NHL card for Saturday. Make sure you join us and make sure you tune in 3 days a week for that here on the SBR YouTube channel, the SBR NHL double play of the day video. We're back to doing that starting tomorrow. Adam, great stuff as always. Thanks, my friend. Have a great night and good luck.
Thanks so much, Ian. Yeah, so I was just going to say my 2 plays today are the Kings money line so far and the Dallas money line. And you can check those articles over at SBR Sports Picks. But look forward to the show tomorrow. Hope you have a profitable Friday, and talk to you then.
Great stuff, Adam. There you go. LA and Dallas, his top 2 plays on the NHL ice. That will wrap up the show. Thanks to everyone for putting up with me for a full week. Well, almost a full week. Tuesday is when I started hosting the morning show. Again, we hope Jimmy's back soon. We don't know when yet. I think he will be back at some point. We just don't know when. And we hope things are good with him. We wish him all the best. No doubt about that. And we hope he is back at some point here on the channel hosting Betting with the Bag. But in the meantime, I've been happy to fill in. I love hosting the show. Great stuff, as always, guys. Great news on the college football board. Texas Tech up 14-0 on Texas in the first quarter. Great start for those Red Raiders. Love that play. My favorite play today on the college football card. Off to a great start with Texas Tech up by 2 touchdowns early. But it's early. Can't celebrate yet. Long way to go in that game. Still only the first quarter, but great start there. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Everybody in the chat, Ronnie Christie, Vegas Gun, everybody else that was in the chat. Thank you so much. We are back. The next show will be the late show tomorrow. I won't be back, but the next show will be the late show, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. A lot of basketball will be covered on that show that we weren't able to get to on this show, so make sure you tune in for that. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Have a great Friday. Good luck with all of your wagers. And as always, leche and los bookmakers.